I posted the video at 11 o'clock on a Thursday night in February, sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor with my phone propped against a stack of textbooks. The caption was simple: "When your mom's boss thinks wage theft is a business strategy." The video showed me holding up pay stubs, redacted to protect my mom's identity, but clear enough to show the pattern. Overtime hours worked but not paid. Mandatory unpaid meetings. Deductions for uniforms that were required but never provided. I had been building my TikTok account for 6 months, posting about labor rights and workplace exploitation. I had maybe 3,000 followers, mostly other college students and people who cared about workers' rights. I did not expect the video to blow up. But by the time I woke up the next morning, it had 500,000 views. By noon it had 2 million. And by the time my mom called me, sobbing and furious, it had gone viral across the entire platform. I had just destroyed her boss, and I had no idea how far the consequences would reach. My name is Paige Crowley, and I was 20 years old, a junior at Portland State University studying sociology. I had grown up in a working-class neighborhood on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon, raised by my mom, Corinne Crowley, who had worked herself to the bone to give me a decent life. My father left when I was 3, and I barely remembered him. It had always been just the two of us, scraping by but making it work. My mom was a housekeeper at the Grandview Suites Hotel, a mid-range chain hotel downtown. She had been there for 12 years, working long shifts cleaning rooms, changing linens, and dealing with difficult guests. The pay was barely above minimum wage, and the hours were unpredictable. But she needed the job. We needed the job. Her boss, a man named Desmond Hale, was the operations manager. He was in his 50s, balding, with a sharp suit and a smile that never reached his eyes. I had met him a few times when I picked my mom up from work. He was polite to guests but cold to the staff. My mom never said much about him, but I could see the exhaustion in her face every night. I started noticing the problems about a year earlier. My mom would come home exhausted, her hands raw from scrubbing, and she would sit at the kitchen table going over her pay stubs with a calculator. The numbers never added up. She would work 50 hours one week but only get paid for 37. She would be required to attend staff meetings at 7 in the morning before her shift started, but those hours were never compensated. When she bought the uniform polo shirts they required her to wear, the cost was deducted from her paycheck. I asked her why she did not complain. She just shook her head. "If I complain, I lose my job, Paige. That is how it works. People like me do not have options." I hated that answer. I hated that she felt trapped, that she accepted being exploited because she was afraid. So I started researching. I looked up Oregon labor laws, wage theft regulations, and workers' rights. I realized that everything Desmond Hale was doing was illegal. Every single thing. And I decided to do something about it. I had started my TikTok account 6 months earlier as a class project for a sociology course on labor movements. I posted videos about minimum wage laws, union organizing, and how to spot workplace violations. My professor loved it and encouraged me to keep going. I enjoyed it, the research, the advocacy, the feeling of giving people information that could help them. My following grew slowly but steadily. I kept it anonymous, never showing my face fully, never mentioning specific names or locations. Just information, delivered in short, digestible videos. Then I started documenting my mom's situation. I took photos of her pay stubs, carefully redacting her name and employee number. I recorded audio of her telling me about the unpaid meetings and the uniform deductions. I compiled everything into a folder on my laptop, building a case. I did not tell her what I was doing. I knew she would tell me to stop, that she would be terrified of retaliation. So I kept it quiet, waiting for the right moment. That moment came in February, after my mom worked a double shift and came home in tears because Desmond had docked her pay for taking a bathroom break. The video I posted was 30 seconds long. I held up the pay stubs, blurred but readable, and spoke directly to the camera. "This is what wage theft looks like," I said. "My mom works at a hotel in Portland. Her boss makes her attend unpaid meetings, deducts money for required uniforms, and refuses to pay overtime. This is illegal under Oregon law, and it happens to thousands of workers every day. If this is happening to you, document everything. You have rights. I ended the video with a link to the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries website. Then I posted it and went to bed. When I woke up, my phone was exploding. The video had been shared thousands of times. Comments poured in from people sharing their own stories of wage theft. Labor rights advocates were tagging news outlets. Someone had even identified the hotel chain based on the uniform visible in the blurred background. Grandview Suites was being called out by name. My stomach dropped. I had not meant to expose the company. I had been careful to blur everything. But the internet is relentless, and people have connected the dots. My mom called me at 8 in the morning, her voice shaking. "Paige, what did you do?" she asked. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. "What do you mean?" "Someone posted a video about Grandview Suites on TikTok," she said. "It is everywhere. People are saying Desmond is stealing from us. The corporate office is freaking out. Did you do this?" I hesitated, then admitted it. "Mom, I'm sorry, but yes." Posted it. "Everything in that video is true. He has been breaking the law for years, and no one is holding him accountable." She was silent for a long moment. Then she started crying. "You just cost me my job, Paige. Do you understand that?" I wanted to tell her it would be okay, that she was protected by whistleblower laws, but I knew the reality. Even if she was legally protected, retaliation was common. Employers found ways to punish people without technically breaking the law. "Mom," I said, "we can fight this. You have documentation. We can file a complaint." She hung up on me. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling the weight of what I had done. I had wanted to help, but I had just made everything worse. The video continued to explode. By Friday afternoon, it had 5 million views. News outlets picked it up. Local labor advocacy groups shared it. A reporter from the Portland Tribune called me, asking for an interview. I declined, but I knew it was only a matter of time before my identity was revealed. My mom stopped answering my calls. I sent her texts apologizing, but she did not respond. I felt sick with guilt, but I also felt something else. Anger. Anger at Desmond Hale for creating this situation. Anger at a system that forced workers to choose between their rights and their livelihoods. On Saturday, Grandview Suites corporate headquarters issued a statement. They claimed they were investigating the allegations and took wage and hour compliance seriously. It was a standard PR response, vague and non-committal. But behind the scenes, things were moving. I received a message on TikTok from someone claiming to be a current Grandview employee. They said Desmond had called an emergency staff meeting and threatened anyone who spoke to the media. He was panicking and he was dangerous. On Sunday, I decided to post a follow-up video. I had been silent for 2 days, watching the chaos unfold, but I needed to say something. I recorded myself speaking directly to the camera, my face fully visible for the first time. "My name is Paige Crowley," I said. "I am the person who posted the video about wage theft at Grandview Suites. I did it because my mom has been exploited for years, and I am tired of watching corporations steal from workers who have no power to fight back. I know people are asking if this is real. It is. I have documentation, have pay stubs, have recordings, and I am not backing down." I ended the video with a challenge. If you have experienced wage theft at Grandview Suites or any other employer, share your story. Use the hashtag #JusticeForWorkers. Let us hold these companies accountable. The video went even more viral than the first. Within 24 hours, hundreds of people had shared their own stories of wage theft, many of them naming Grandview Suites specifically. The company was drowning in bad press, and I was the one who had opened the floodgates. On Monday morning, my mom showed up at my apartment. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. I opened the door, and she walked in without saying a word. She sat on my couch and stared at the floor for a long time. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I should have told you before I posted it." She looked up at me, her expression unreadable. "Got fired," she said. Desmond called me into his office this morning and told me I was terminated for violating company policy. He said I disclosed confidential financial information. I felt my chest tighten. That is retaliation. It is illegal. He knows that. But he also knows I cannot afford to fight him. I sat down beside her. Mom, we can fight this. I have already contacted a labor attorney. Her name is Quinn Breslin, and she specializes in wage theft cases. She wants to talk to you. My mom shook her head. Cannot, Paige. Cannot go through a legal battle. I need a job now, not 2 years from now after a lawsuit. Understand, I said. But if you do nothing, he wins. He keeps exploiting people and nothing changes. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. You do not understand what it is like to be powerless. But she was wrong. I did understand. I had grown up watching her struggle, watching her sacrifice everything for me. And I was done watching. I contacted Quinn Breslin myself. She was a sharp, no-nonsense attorney in her 40s who had built a reputation taking on big corporations. We met at her office downtown and I laid out everything I had. The pay stubs, the recordings, the documentation of unpaid overtime and illegal deductions. Quinn reviewed it all carefully, her expression growing darker with each page. This is textbook wage theft, she said. And the retaliation against your mother is blatant. We have a strong case. What happens next, I asked. We file a complaint with the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries, she said. We also file a lawsuit against Grandview Suites for wage theft and wrongful termination. If your mother agrees, we can make this a class action. There are likely dozens of other employees who have been affected. My mom was reluctant, but I convinced her to meet with Quinn. After hearing the legal strategy, she agreed. We are doing this, she said quietly. Not just for me. For everyone he hurt. The lawsuit was filed in March. It named Desmond Hale and Grandview Suites corporate headquarters as defendants. The complaint detailed years of wage theft, affecting over 40 employees at the Portland location alone. Quinn requested full payroll records, internal communications, and financial documents. The media coverage intensified. The Portland Tribune ran a front-page story. Local news stations interviewed former employees who shared their own experiences. My TikTok account exploded to over 100,000 followers. I became the face of the case, posting updates and encouraging other workers to come forward. Desmond Hale, meanwhile, went silent. He stopped giving interviews and deleted his social media accounts. Grandview Suites tried to control the narrative, releasing statements about their commitment to employee welfare and promising internal reforms. But it was too late. The damage was done. In April, the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries launched an official investigation. They subpoenaed records and interviewed employees. The findings were damning. Desmond had been systematically stealing wages for over 5 years, affecting hundreds of employees across multiple locations. The case moved quickly. In May, Grandview Suites offered a settlement. They agreed to pay $2.3 million in back wages and penalties to affected employees. They also agreed to terminate Desmond Hale and implement new compliance measures. Quinn advised my mom to accept. The settlement was not an admission of guilt, but it was a victory. My mom received $47,000 in back pay, enough to cover months of rent and bills. More importantly, she was vindicated. But I wanted more. I wanted Desmond to face criminal charges. Quinn explained that wage theft was rarely prosecuted as a crime, even though it was technically illegal. Employers usually faced civil penalties, not jail time. That needs to change, I said. If someone steals from a store, they go to jail. Why is it different when a boss steals from a worker? It should not be, Quinn agreed. But changing that requires changing the law. And that requires public pressure. So I kept posting, kept advocating. And slowly, the conversation began to shift. Lawmakers in Oregon introduced a bill to increase criminal penalties for wage theft. Labor advocacy groups rallied support. My viral video had started something bigger than I ever imagined. By June, my TikTok account had over 500,000 followers. I was invited to speak at labor rallies, university panels, and community events. I talked about my mom's story about the systemic exploitation of workers, and about the power of speaking up. Not everyone supported me. I received hate messages daily, people calling me a troublemaker, accusing me of destroying jobs and hurting businesses. Some said I had betrayed my mom by posting without her permission. Those comments hurt, but they did not stop me. Because for every hateful message, there were 10 messages of gratitude. Workers who had filed their own complaints. People who had found the courage to stand up to abusive employers. Students who were inspired to study labor law. I was making a difference, and that mattered more than the criticism. My mom, meanwhile, found a new job at a unionized hotel. The pay was better, the hours more stable, and she was treated with respect. She still worried about me, about the attention I was getting and the enemies I was making. But she also told me she was proud. "You did something I was too afraid to do," she said one night over dinner. "You fought back." In July, I was contacted by a documentary filmmaker named Octavia Mills. She was working on a film about wage theft in America and wanted to feature my story. I agreed, hoping it would reach even more people. The film crew followed me for 2 months, interviewing my mom, Quinn, and other workers affected by Desmond's theft. They documented the lawsuit, the settlement, and the ongoing fight for stronger labor protections. The documentary, titled Stolen Hours, premiered at a film festival in October. It received critical acclaim and was picked up by a streaming service. My story became part of a larger conversation about workers' rights, corporate accountability, and the failures of the American labor system. I watched the premiere with my mom, sitting in a crowded theater surrounded by activists and advocates. When the credits rolled, the audience stood and applauded. My mom squeezed my hand. "I never thought something good could come from something so painful," she said. "But you made it good, Paige. You turned it into something that mattered." Desmond Hale never faced criminal charges, but his career was over. He was blacklisted in the hospitality industry, unable to find work. His reputation was destroyed. Grandview Suites implemented new policies, including third-party payroll audits and anonymous reporting systems for wage violations. It was not perfect, but it was progress. The Oregon legislature passed a bill increasing penalties for wage theft in November. It was signed into law by the governor in December. I was invited to the signing ceremony, standing behind the governor as she put pen to paper. "This is because of people like Paige Crowley," the governor said, "who refuse to accept injustice and who fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." I did not feel like a hero. I felt like someone who had done what needed to be done. Someone who had seen something wrong and refused to look away. My mom was there with me, and as the cameras flashed, I looked at her and saw something I had not seen in years. Oh, she believed things could change. And that belief was worth more than any settlement or law. My TikTok account continued to grow. By the end of the year, I had over 1 million followers. I used the platform to educate, to advocate, and to amplify the voices of workers who had been silenced. I partnered with labor organizations, sharing resources and connecting people with legal help. I also started a podcast called The Wage Fight, where I interviewed workers, attorneys, and activists about labor rights. The podcast grew quickly, becoming one of the top labor advocacy shows in the country. I graduated from Portland State in the spring with honors. My thesis was on wage theft and its impact on working-class families. It was published in an academic journal and cited by researchers studying labor economics. I was offered a job at a nonprofit called Workers United, an organization that fought for fair wages and workplace protections. I accepted, turning my activism into a career. My mom was happier than I had ever seen her. She was thriving at her new job, saving money, and even talking about taking a vacation for the first time in years. We had survived the storm, and we had come out stronger. In February, exactly 1 year after I posted the original video, I received a message on TikTok from someone named Ingrid Volkov. She said she was a former employee of Grandview Suites in Seattle, and that she had experienced the same wage theft. She wanted to file a complaint but did not know where to start. I connected her with Quinn, who took her case. Within weeks, more workers from other Grandview locations came forward. Quinn filed a second lawsuit, this time a nationwide class action against Grandview Suites. The case alleged that wage theft was not isolated to the Portland location but was a company-wide practice. The lawsuit was massive, involving over 300 employees across 12 states. Grandview Suites fought hard, hiring expensive lawyers and trying to discredit the claims. But the evidence was overwhelming. Internal emails showed that corporate executives knew about the wage violations and had done nothing. Payroll records confirmed the pattern of unpaid overtime and illegal deductions. In June, the company agreed to a settlement of $18 million. It was one of the largest wage theft settlements in the country that year. The victory was celebrated across the labor movement. Workers United held a rally in Portland, and I was asked to speak. I stood on a stage in front of thousands of people, my voice amplified by speakers, and I told them the truth. This fight is not over, I said. Wage theft is not just a problem at one company. It is a systemic issue that affects millions of workers across this country. But we have the power to change it. We have the power to demand better, to hold employers accountable, and to build a future where work is respected and workers are protected. The crowd cheered, and I felt a surge of purpose. This was my calling. This was what I was meant to do. After the rally, a reporter asked me if I regretted posting the video, knowing the consequences it had for my mom. I did not hesitate. No, I said, because staying silent would have been worse. My mom lost her job, but she gained her dignity. And hundreds of other workers got justice. That was worth it. The reporter asked one more question. What do you want people to take away from your story? I looked directly into the camera. I want them to know that one person can make a difference. One voice, one video, one moment of courage can spark a movement. Do not be afraid to speak up. The system counts on your silence. Prove them wrong. By the fall, I had become a recognizable figure in the labor movement. I was invited to speak at universities, conferences, and union meetings. I testified before the Oregon State Legislature about the need for stronger enforcement of wage laws. I was even invited to speak at a congressional hearing in Washington, D.C., about wage theft and workers' rights. The experience was surreal. I sat at a table in front of a panel of representatives, answering questions about my mom's case and the broader issue of labor exploitation. Some representatives were supportive, praising my courage and commitment. Others were hostile, accusing me of attacking businesses and hurting the economy. I stayed calm, presenting facts and data. I explained that wage theft cost workers over $15 billion a year, more than all other forms of theft combined. I argued that holding employers accountable was not anti-business, it was pro-worker, and workers deserved protection. The hearing was broadcast on C-SPAN and shared widely on social media. My testimony went viral, just like the original TikTok video. I was no longer just Paige Crowley, the girl who exposed her mom's boss. I was a national advocate, a voice for the voiceless. Not everyone was happy with my rise. I received threats, some vague and some specific. Anonymous accounts sent messages saying I should watch my back, that I was making enemies. I reported them to the police, but there was little they could do. I also faced backlash from business groups, who accused me of being anti-capitalist and anti-American. Op-eds were written criticizing me, calling me naive and idealistic. One columnist wrote that I was a dangerous radical who wanted to destroy the economy. I laughed when I read that. All I wanted was for workers to be paid for their labor. If that was radical, then the system was broken. My mom worried about me constantly. She begged me to step back, to let others take the lead. But I could not. I had started something and I needed to see it through. In November, I was awarded the Rising Advocate Award by the National Labor Rights Network. It was a huge honor, and the ceremony was held in New York City. I brought my mom as my guest, and we walked the red carpet together. She wore a dress she bought specifically for the occasion, and she glowed with pride. "This is your moment, Paige," she said. "You earned it." During my acceptance speech, I talked about the power of storytelling. I explained how one TikTok video had sparked a national conversation, not because I was special, but because I told the truth. Stories are how we connect, I said. Stories are how we inspire change. My mom's story is not unique. Millions of workers experience wage theft every day. But when we share those stories, when we make them visible, we force people to pay attention. And attention leads to action. I dedicated the award to my mom and to every worker who had ever been exploited. The audience gave a standing ovation. Afterward, people came up to me, shaking my hand and thanking me. One woman, a hotel housekeeper from Los Angeles, hugged me tightly. "You gave me hope," she said. "I thought I was alone, but I am not." That moment, more than any award or recognition, reminded me why I was doing this. It was not about fame or attention. It was about solidarity, about standing with people who had been pushed down and helping them stand back up. In December, I received an offer to write a book. A publisher wanted me to tell my story, from the viral video to the lawsuits to the national movement. I hesitated at first, unsure if I was ready. But my mom encouraged me. "This is bigger than you now, Paige," she said. "Your story can help people understand why this fight matters." So I signed the contract and started writing. The process was exhausting but cathartic. I poured everything into those pages, the fear, the anger, the hope, and the victory. I interviewed other workers, including Ingrid, who had become a close friend. I included their stories, making sure the book was not just about me but about the movement. The book, titled One Voice, How a TikTok Video Sparked a Labor Revolution, was published the following summer. It became a bestseller, reaching the top 10 on the New York Times list. The reviews were overwhelmingly positive. Critics praised it for being honest, accessible, and inspiring. Some called it a call to action for a new generation of activists. I did a national book tour, speaking at bookstores, libraries, and community centers. Everywhere I went, people thanked me for telling their story. By the end of that year, I had become a full-time advocate. I left my job at Workers United to focus on speaking, writing, and organizing. I founded my own nonprofit called Fair Wage Alliance, dedicated to fighting wage theft and supporting workers through education and legal resources. We partnered with attorneys, labor unions, and community organizations. Within a year, we had helped over 500 workers recover stolen wages. My mom joined the board, bringing her first-hand experience to the work. She became a fierce advocate herself, speaking at events and mentoring other workers who were afraid to come forward. Watching her transformation was one of the most rewarding parts of my journey. She had gone from a woman who felt powerless to a leader in the movement. Desmond Hale, meanwhile, faded into obscurity. I heard through the grapevine that he was working a low-level administrative job in another state, far from the hospitality industry. I did not feel satisfaction or vindication. I just felt relief that he could no longer hurt anyone. The real victory was not his downfall. It was the lives that had been changed, the laws that had been passed, and the workers who had found their voices. In March, exactly 3 years after I posted the original video, I returned to Portland State University to give a guest lecture. The auditorium was packed with students, many of whom had followed my journey from the beginning. I stood at the podium, looking out at their eager faces, and I told them the truth. I did not plan to start a movement, I said. I just saw something wrong and decided I could not stay silent. But that one decision changed everything. Changed my life, my mom's life, and the lives of thousands of workers. And it started with a 30-second video on TikTok. I encouraged them to use their voices, their platforms, and their passions to fight for justice. You do not need to be powerful to make a difference, I said. You just need to be willing to act. After the lecture, students lined up to ask questions. One young woman, a freshman studying political science, asked me what advice I would give to someone who wanted to be an advocate. Smiled. Document everything, I said. Tell the truth. And do not be afraid of making people uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. That is how you know it is working. It is 2027 now, and I am 25 years old. My TikTok account has over 3 million followers. My nonprofit has grown to a team of 15 people. We have offices in Portland, Seattle, and Los Angeles. We have helped recover over $12 million in stolen wages for workers across the country. My mom is thriving, living in a small house she bought with her settlement money and working part-time at a job she loves. She volunteers with Fair Wage Alliance, mentoring workers and sharing her story. We are closer than we have ever been, united by a fight that nearly tore us apart. I still think about that night in February when I posted the video. I think about how scared I was, how guilty I felt, and how certain I was that I had made a terrible mistake. But I did not. I made the right choice. Not the easy choice, but the right one. My name is Paige Crowley, and I am not just the girl who posted a TikTok video. I am an advocate, a writer, and a fighter. I turned my mom's pain into a movement, and I am not done yet. Because as long as workers are exploited, as long as bosses steal wages, and as long as people stay silent out of fear, there is work to do. And I will keep doing it, one video, one story, one voice at a time.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoy watching Karma, Payback, come full circle every week, we dive into tales of betrayal and poetic justice. Don't miss the next one. Tap the subscribe button and join the Revenge Squad.